Right, let's get into some of the news around the world, and much of it obviously dominated by what's going on in America. But I do think we've got a few other bits. I think most of it's about America this week because it's kind of coming from there. A lot's stemming from there. Right, first thing is Donald Trump repeated his threat with a possible shutdown of the US government. That's valid. And if lawmakers don't provide more money to build his proposed border wall, even as Republicans in Congress are planning to push a fight over the president's signature proposal past the November election. Now, speaking at the White House on Monday, Trump said if we don't get border security after many, many years of talks within the United States, I would have no problem doing a shutdown. It's time we had proper border security. Now, a House Republican aide said there's no chance of a September shutdown, although one in December is possible if Trump follows through with his threat. And the Senate. So, a bit of a breakdown on that. Yes, we know the trust fund on the wall, but there's other issues surrounding the funding, which has got to come from government. But they know what it's all about, and it's a bit of media game playing. But yes, I know we've told members that the trust will pay for the wall, and they will. But there's other funding issues that need to be addressed that are being blocked in lengthy documents and all the other nonsense that they go through. Now, what may be of interest is the Senate this week cancelled most of its August recess. That's kind of unprecedented, as I understand it. And this is in part to debate spending bills. Remember, the budget was kicked down the road until the end of September. There'll be a lot of to and fro between now and that particular date. And then a lot of to and fro between then and the election date. But don't be surprised if Trump goes ahead with the government shutdown. We will get warning of it, but we'll see. Now, veteran journalist Bob Woodward is working on a book that will detail the inner workings of the Trump White House, set for release, no surprise, just before November's midterm elections. This is another hit piece book. And it's kind of the way things are going. And the book, called Fear Trump in the White House, is set to be released initially on September 11th. That's not a surprise either. And according to the book's pre-order page, the book reveals in unprecedented detail the harrowing life inside President Donald Trump's White House and precisely how he makes decisions on major foreign and domestic policies. Yes, he's not making them in the old way, where they allowed the deep state and others to trample all over us. That's the difference. And the cover depicts a close-up of Trump's face cast in a red filter. And Woodward's account is based on hundreds of hours of interviews with first-hand sources, meeting notes, personal diaries, files and documents. Funny, I don't recall them doing one with Obama after less than 18 months writing a book, or Bush Jr. or Clinton. This is all part of let's shut down Trump. It won't work. Leslie Moonves, according to who's the CEO of CBS Corporation, will remain in place while accusations of sexual misconduct against the Hollywood kingpin are being investigated by an outside counsel. CBS Corporation announced yesterday that its board of directors is in process of selecting outside counsel to conduct an independent investigation, and until then, no other action was taken on this matter on today's board meeting, so Mr. Moonves stays in CBS. The board meeting, previously scheduled to discuss CBS's up-and-coming earnings, which is collapsing like all the others, had been forced to redirect its attention after Moonves was accused of forcibly touching and kissing women during business meetings. Ronan Farrow chronicled the allegations in his latest report on Hollywood sexual misconduct for the New Yorker. That's going to expand and expand. The number of people involved in that type of behaviour will boggle the mind. Now, President Trump again, people say there's not a lot going on, but we mentioned last week about the Fed. Here's another one. Read between the lines. But Trump has become personally involved in plotting a new FBI headquarters in downtown DC. An interest that for now has left the project in limbo and the agency stranded in a building that no longer suits its needs, according to officials and people who are familiar with the administration's deliberations. Now, for years, the FBI officials have raised alarms that the poor conditions at its current headquarters, which is the J. Edgar Hoover building, constitute serious security concerns. That's a laugh. And a year ago, federal officials had finally decided on 3 locations that were to be selected in Maryland, Virginia, and Congress appropriated $913 million towards the more than $3 billion project to build the new FBI headquarters. Now, 6 months after Trump entered the White House, his administration had abandoned the plan. You'll probably find, like his comment about Jerusalem, it'll be another building will get used and it'll be an awful lot cheaper. And it won't have security issues like spy bugs littered all the way through it. That the government build a smaller headquarters to replace it in downtown DC and move 2,300 other FBI staff out of the Washington area altogether to Alabama, Idaho, and West Virginia. Now, at the time, that decision baffled real estate experts and some members of Congress. I think it's becoming a lot more clearer now what is going on. Florida. Hundreds of gun owners in Florida have been ordered to give up their guns under a new law signed this week. That took effect after, and this was in response to the so-called deadly Parkland shooting back in February. The Risk Protection Order, which was signed by Rick Scott, just 3 weeks after a gunman killed 17 people at Stoneman Douglas, aims to temporarily remove weapons from gun owners who have been deemed by a judge to possibly be a threat to themselves or others. I'll have comments on that in a minute. So far, roughly 200 firearms have been confiscated in the state since the law was enacted, and Sergeant Jason Schmittendorf, no, I won't say it, it's all very German, isn't it, told the Pinellas County Sheriff Office around 30,000 rounds of ammunition had also been removed. And this is all very, very well doing this stuff, but as we know, there are people who are not responsible enough with guns, and they should be looked at. But, and a big but, with the corrupt judges and the corrupt system, could this not be seen as being more designed to remove guns off people who are responsible, who just choose to not believe in their system? This is almost like the Patriot Act, where we're protecting your safety. No, they're not. They're protecting their own. Now, I'm sure I speak for all when I say we don't trust they will enact that order in the right way, and neither should we, given their track record. But I would like to ask Rick Scott, is he applying that law to the cops? If not, then why not? Given 60% of cops have committed domestic abuse in the past 12 months. 60%. Or the fact that many cops are just shooting people without due cause. Now, these types of laws have to be and should apply to all people, not just who they select as a problem to the system. I don't think any of us trusts that they will enact that law properly. The bipartisan leaders of the Senate Judiciary Committee asked federal investigators on Monday to examine further allegations of sexual, physical and emotional abuse of immigrants held at government detention facilities, saying that the mistreatment may have been occurring since 2014 or even earlier. So they're not just accusing since Trump's come in. Now, with Mr. Trump already under fire for separating thousands of migrant children from their detained parents, the request for an investigation by Senator Chuck Grassley and, go figure, Dianne Feinstein elevated yet another issue to the administration's list of immigration problems. And these allegations of abuse are extremely disturbing and must be addressed, said Grassley and Feinstein. Well, why didn't he ask about them being addressed before Trump came in office? It was an epidemic, absolute epidemic. The reason they're separated is because most of them don't have parents. They won't tell you that in the fake news. New research from an international team of physicists has revealed that the Great Pyramid of Giza, no surprise this news because you've heard it on THI before, may be able to focus electromagnetic energy through its hidden chambers and under its base. Scientists at ITMO University in Russia and Germany's Laser Zentrum Hanover applied methods of theoretical physics to investigate the electromagnetic response of the ancient Egyptian pyramid to radio waves. And their calculations predicted that in a resonant state, the pyramid could concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers as well as under its base, where the third unfinished chamber is located. They are energy machines, not tombs. There's never been a single body pulled out of those pyramids ever. There we go. Our old friend Maxine Waters. She who opens her mouth too much is likely to have something rammed right back down it. And here goes. She's now in the hot seat over the way she raises money and the money she paid to her daughter. Go figure. Waters raises money by charging other California Democrats big bucks to be listed on the sample ballot of candidates she supports that she sends out with her mail pieces. And over the past 14 years, her campaign committee, Citizens for Waters, has spent about $750,000 with Waters' daughter, Karen Waters, or her daughter's PR firm, Progressive Connections. Oops. As a result, the National Legal and Policy Center has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission asking for a full audit of the Citizens for Waters campaign, and a second complaint that focuses on how Waters raises and spends the money is also in the works. Tom Anderson, the director of the group's Government Integrity Project, that's a laugh at Maxine Waters. What Waters does, Anderson said, is collect the money from other politicians far in excess of the campaign fund raising limit to be listed among those candidates that she supports. Lamb to the slaughter, Maxine. Lamb to the slaughter. You've been thrown out like a mug and you're going to get exposed badly. There's another one. Of course, we all know why this story is now breaking. For those of you listen and take notes, or go and see the transcripts of the shows that are being posted on the Patreon. But Antonio Guterres, the UN General Secretary, has warned that the organisation is facing unprecedented shortage of funding. Oh my. I wonder where that went. And its core budget, and will need to make urgent cuts unless member states pay up. Now, the alarm was raised in letters seen by The Guardian and other news organisations, which was sent by Guterres to member states and also staff. Now, he told the member states that the UN's core budget was in the red more deeply and earlier in its financial year than it ever previously experienced. He added that as of the 30th of June, core funding had a deficit of $139 million, and said the UN had never faced such a difficult cash flow situation this early in any calendar year. Now, the UN General Assembly Budget Committee agreed in December on a $4.5 billion core UN budget for 2018 through 2019, which the US Ambassador Nikki Haley said was a cut of $285 million from the previous year. The UN peacekeeping is funded separately, I might add. But according to the UN, 112 of 193 member states have so far paid their share. Really? And we paid it all back. The US, which is responsible for 22% of the UN budget, traditionally pays later because of its budget year. I suspect that will be radically cut or deleted altogether. Now, the countries that have so far failed to pay include America, Argentina, Syria, Venezuela and Belarus. Now, by July last year, 116 countries have paid compared to 98 in 2016, and China, France, Russia and Britain, the permanent members of the UN Security Council, along with the US, are all paid up for last year. And all of it was returned. Now, he said he was concerned with the broader trend, and we are running out of cash sooner and staying in the red longer. You'll stay in the red permanently, because you owe massive amounts of debts back to the trust. And in essence, the UN is defunct. They're just giving the illusion it's still going. A bit like the Fed, really. Now, we've highlighted the country of Zimbabwe a few times, including his president or the Prime Minister, whichever it is in that country, telling the UN and the IMF where to go. You all know what happens next. Well, 3 people were killed in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, after troops opened fire on rioting opposition supporters, Aka mercenaries. And the government says the army was deployed in central Harare to help police restore order, and the opposition MDC alliance condemned the crackdown, saying it was a reminder of the dark days of Robert Mugabe's rule, and alleges that the governing ZANU PF party had rigged Monday's elections. All sounds so familiar. What will we do for time? Okay. This will have a common theme tonight. After an hour speech detailing quite a few things regarding the changes and improvements that have been made during Trump's roughly 18 months in charge. The portal people this week focused on one slip-up to highlight and ignored anything that was really relevant that was said during that speech. Donald Trump has been accused of being out of touch with voters after saying Americans need identification to go shopping. Well, if you're shopping for certain items, they will ask for your identification, but they had to go and make a point out of it, and the media all jumped on board en masse. You know, if one person picks it out, you can understand, but they all did. So, Mr. Trump made a slip up in speech, but he said an awful lot of other things that were actually relevant. The media again. Again, you have to ask, where is the media outrage over this story, given that they all focused on Trump making a minor faux pas on the identification for shopping. And an aide to Melania Trump fired back yesterday at an Oregon congressional candidate who tweeted an insult at the First Lady. And Trump's spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham said that the independent candidate Mark Roberts' remarks calling Trump's wife a hoe bag represented the hypocritical intolerance of Trump's political enemies. This is just more hypocritical intolerance from those who oppose their husband's administration. To say such ugly words about a mother, wife and our First Lady is not just a pathetic attempt at getting himself in the news, it is disturbing and also despicable. And Roberts came under heavy criticism from Republicans this week after he tweeted that Trump works by the hour, adding the hashtag hoebag. He refused to apologise amid all the criticism. Now, for those of you who don't know, government officials have a lot of entourage, and Trump seemed to be scaling an awful lot of things down, and Melania is the same. She has 39 fewer staffers dedicated to her being the First Lady than under Obama. There are only 5 staffers dedicated to Melania, where there was 44 staffers to Michael Obama. But the media won't report that, will they? So if CNN wants to know why everyone thinks they suck, the last 2 stories are just the tip of the iceberg and also the problem. Nobody's listening to you anymore. Now, an autopsy report came out on, some would say, was the original start of what is known as the alternative media or conspiracy theory groups. And authorities in Nevada say Art Bell, who was a radio show host best known for nightly shows in the 1990s about paranormal themes and conspiracy theories, actually died, according to them anyway, of an accidental overdose of prescription drugs, according to Nye County Sheriff Sharon Whaley, who posted a brief announcement on Wednesday saying an autopsy determined the 72-year-old Bell died of multiple drug intoxication from his own lawfully prescribed prescriptions. Now, according to the coroner, Bell had the painkillers of oxycodone, hydrocodone, the sedative diazepam and the muscle relaxant carisoprodol in his system. Really. And they also indicated there was no indication of foul play. I don't think many believe that too much, but there you go. Take note of this and tie it in with other pieces. Federal prosecutors revealed Wednesday that 3 men are now in custody, charged in a massive hacking operation that targeted businesses in 47 states and stole the credit and debit card numbers of more than 15 million people. Annette Hayes, the US attorney in Seattle, said the 3 were part of a group that called itself FIN7 and used computer malware to steal customer cards from point-of-sale terminals at more than 3,600 business locations. The total loss so far is in the tens of millions, and outlets of more than 100 US companies were hit in all but 3 states, which was Alaska, Hawaii and South Dakota. Tie that into other things and you'll get the gist of that. Wells Fargo's next. Another fine. They have agreed to pay $2.09 billion in penalty charges to settle claims related to mortgage loans originated in the run-up to the financial crisis. Now, the civil fine is for alleged origination and sale of residential mortgage loans that the lender knew contained misstated income information and did not meet the quality that Wells Fargo allegedly represented. This was according to the US Department of Justice, which said today's agreement holds Wells Fargo responsible for originating and selling tens of thousands of loans that were packaged into securities and subsequently defaulted. Oops. We'll have more on Wells Fargo later. Alex Jones, another one in trouble. Another lamb to the slaughter. Could well be. You know, we've said it often. Jones fulfilled the role, but he is COINTELPRO, out and out. But it appears now he's in a bit of trouble. And in an Austin court yesterday, the struggle of the Sandy Hook families to hold to account Alex Jones will reach a crossroads. Lawyers for Noah Posner's parents will seek to convince a Texas judge that they, and by extension the families of 8 other victims in the 2012 shooting that allegedly killed 20 first graders and 6 adults, have a valid defamation claim against Alex Jones, who has been, according to the court documents, spreading false claims that the shooting was an elaborate hoax. I tend to agree with him. The Posner hearing is a bellwether in 3 cases, including another in Texas and one in Connecticut, that have been filed by relatives of 9 Sandy Hook victims, and it comes as the social media platform Mr. Jones relies upon, according to them, to spread incendiary claims, this will initiate efforts to curb him. And the day after Posner case in the same courthouse is a hearing in a separate defamation case against Mr. Jones, which was brought by Marcel Fontaine, who falsely identified on InfoWars website as the gunman in the Parkland, Florida shooting. Mr. Fontaine, who lives in Massachusetts, has never visited Florida, and the Posner family and Mr. Fontaine are being represented by the same lawyer, and that firm is based in Houston. That could get interesting, that court case. Theresa May has risked the fury of Brexiteers. I did warn about this when I was back in CV. They would backtrack, and she is, because she doesn't have any say in the matter, by announcing plans to keep the UK under EU laws for a further 21 months now. The 1972 European Communities Act will not be fully repealed until the end of the planned transition period, at the end of 2020 rather than on exit day next year. And Dominic Raab, the Brexit secretary, told MPs the move was necessary to ensure the statute book functions properly. Really, in accordance with the agreement we have made with the EU. Stall, stall, stall. It won't work eventually. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has refused to break with the president and says she does not think the news media is the enemy of the American people. Very diplomatic of her. Sanders was pressed on today by Clinton News Network correspondent Jim Acosta during a White House briefing, and in what became quite a heated exchange, Sanders listed a litany of complaints against the press and blamed the media for inflaming tensions in the country. Hear, hear. And the exchange came hours after the president's eldest daughter and advisor, Ivanka Trump, said in an interview that she does not view the news media as the enemy of the people, which is breaking with her father. And Acosta later walked out of the briefing in protest. Well, you'll have to start spouting the truth then, won't you? Instead of drivel. I'll have more on them later. Like I said, the media portal people will be a common theme tonight. Two more pieces before we have a music break. Financial problems have been a long and common cause of divorce, but there's now a new money factor that's wrecking marriages that arguably wasn't as prevalent as a generation ago, known as the student loan debt. That has to be stopped, and will, I would imagine, in time. Now, according to a new report by the Student Loan Hero, 13% of divorced borrowers cited their student loan debt in the dissolution of their marriages. And this may come as no surprise in an age where student loan debt is climbing. More than 44 million Americans are saddled with student loan debt, contributing to a whopping national total of $1.5 trillion. To learn drivel. Not only has the percentage of students taking out student loans increased over the past decade, but so too has the amount of money that they've been borrowing. And according to the report, the class of 2017 graduated with an average of $39,400 in student loan debt. $39,400 for worthless pieces of paper. Really. Sorry if that upsets some. If you think the current, as they call it, education programme has value, I don't. Go and have a look at a Wisconsin paper. It's on the internet somewhere, 1888, and tell me if our education, which means training of animals, by the way. Education means training of animals. Is anywhere near the levels that kids of 13 years of age when they left school then. Now they're staying to 18 and no less than a 13-year-old over 100 years ago. Another small update from Kevin Annett, detailing Mark MacDonald, Bishop of the Anglican Church of Canada. And Kevin said Mark MacDonald is a member of the criminal Ninth Circle pedophile cult and is a suspect in the disappearance of children in the United States, Canada and also Europe. He is wanted for questioning by international police agencies, and a bench warrant has been issued for his immediate arrest. MacDonald is considered dangerous and a threat to the safety of children and the welfare of the community, and all people are required to assist in his identification and arrest by duly authorised common law sheriffs. If you have any knowledge or the whereabouts of McDonald's, immediately notify the Sheriff's Department of our tribunal and its Interpol liaison officer at the ITCCS office at gmail.com. That was issued on August the 1st by the directors of the International Tribunal of Crime. I would agree. It's warranted. It appears Pope Francis now opposes the death penalty. Oh my. After the Church have committed millions to death, including a number of special teachers over the last 1,000 years, plus their perverted and sadistic rituals in the 10 floors below the altar. I'm not being funny, Pope, but do us a favour. Go fuck yourself.